Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the new 3.2 banners and see if they are worth rolling on. And here are the new 3.2 banners, with the headliners being Nahida and Yoimiya, and the 4 stars being Bennett, Noel, and Razor. Let's talk about Nahida first. I talked about Nahida in my previous videos already. Nahida is the newest Dendro character to be released, and she is looking like to be a very good character in terms of changing team comps involving Dendro reactions. Nahida is a Dendro Calidus user that specializes in dealing consistent Dendro damage and consistent Dendro application both on field and off field. She can deal Dendro damage from her normal charged attacks, but when talking about her elemental skill has two functions, a hold and a tap function. The hold function basically turns her elemental skill into like this camera mode that you can zoom around and scan enemies, putting a mark on them, and whenever her elemental skill hits opponents, it applies a mark, and with all the enemies with a mark are connected, where when dealing reaction damage towards the enemies, either from elemental reactions or from Dendro cores, all the marks on the enemies will deal Dendro damage at the same time, while also at the same time applying Dendro. When talking about her elemental burst does basically nothing but just applies a field, where within it applies buffs to Nahida's skills. Her burst has 3 different types of buffs, with each of them having 2 stacks that are based on the elemental types of your party members, where one, if you have a party member that is Pyro, it increases the damage of the mark that is applied from your elemental skill. If a party member is Electro, it decreases the cooldown interval that these marks can consistently proc during the elemental skill duration. And if your party member is Hydro, it basically increases the duration on how long the burst lasts, where each of these buffs is very nice to have, but I think the one buff that a lot of people want to focus on is the Electro one, where you definitely want to decrease the cooldown that the marks can proc, meaning more Dendro application and more Dendro damage from your elemental skill. Overall, I'm very excited for Nahida, and I am going to pull her, so go check me live on Twitch. The link will be in the description below on the day of the update and me pulling her and testing her on day 1. I think Nahida is going to be a very exciting unit in terms of changing a lot of the team comps involving Dendro reactions, and also being overall a good unit. And when quickly talking about artifact builds that you would potentially want to farm or put on your Nahida, the first one is definitely going to be the Dendro set, because that is her best in slot. But a secondary option, in case you don't really have that many good artifacts from that set, is the Guild of Dreams, where both of these sets are in one domain, which makes it a lot easier to farm, and a good substitute set if you don't really feel like farming a 4-piece set of the Dendro set if you already have a good 4-piece set of Gilded. Dendro set is gonna be better, but not by a significant amount, because where it's not really a loss if you want to put her on Gilded instead of Dendro is totally fine, because Gilded does give you a good amount of elemental mastery, where compared to Nahida's kit, a lot of her scalings does scale off a lot of elemental mastery, so you definitely want to have a lot of elemental mastery on your Nahida, but not too much where you're overcapping over 1,000, because once you hit over 1,000, basically any elemental mastery over that is just wasted. And Nahida does have passes where it does scale off elemental mastery, where it boosts her elemental skills damage and also gives her some crit rate for her elemental skills, so you definitely want to give her a lot of elemental mastery. So either set is totally fine. When talking about weapons, there's a couple of choices that you can go for. When regarding 5 stars, I think going to be the new 5-star Catalyst, which the main side is going to be Elemental Mastery, where the passive basically buffs her damage by the elemental types of your party members. Another good 5-star option is Kagura's Rarity, because one, it gives you crit damage, and also the passive, it also increases your elemental skill. When looking into the 4 stars, only 3 come up to mind, where one, the Wisted, it gives you crit damage, and also the passive gives you a really huge boost. But the problem with this weapon is that it's mostly a 1 rotation weapon, where it's not really going to be useful in terms of the passive after 10 seconds, because the buff lasts not that long, so it's really just 1 shot or 1 rotation comps. So if you like the damage boost, then this weapon could be a good choice for you. But if you want a weapon that is a little bit more lasting or a little bit more flexible, then the other choices you can look into is one being Sacrificial Fragments, where one, it gives you elemental mastery for the main stat, and 2, the passive gives you 2 E procs, which could be good in case you mess up the scanning from your E. The third option is actually a free-to-play option, which is the Mondstadt Craftable Catalyst, the Maple Mire. One being the main stat giving you Elemental Mastery, and the passive does give you sort of a damage boost, so you could utilize that. And an extra choice in case you don't have any of those options or don't really like those options, then the option you could go for, which is just overall a really good weapon, is the Favonius Codex, which gives you energy recharge, but the passive is really good in terms of buffing energy. That is all I have to say about Nahida, and moving on to Yoimiya, which she is getting her third rerun, which is honestly kind of quick. I was surprised that Yoimiya is getting a rerun this fast, considering we had her rerun literally just last summer, which I think was like 4 months ago, which is not really that long. So when quickly talking about Yoimiya, she is a pyro bow user that specializes in dealing normal attack pyro damage, where if you use her elemental skill, it basically converts all of her normal attacks into pyro, and when using her burst, she basically jumps in the air and applies this mark on the enemy, where she herself cannot proc it, but only off-field damage from other characters can proc it. I don't know why Yoimiya's burst works like that. I think it's kind of annoying, which kind of makes her kit kind of bad in a way. Even though she is a very solid on-field damage dealer, when comparing her to other on-field damage dealers, she's not that strong of a candidate, but a very solid candidate. With regarding how to build Yoimiya, I think really her main 5-star best in slot is the Thundering Pulse, but when considering other options, she can use basically a lot. She has Skyward Heart, Polar Star, 4 stars, she can use the Hamayumi Bow. I think the best free-to-play options for Yoimiya is one, the Hamayumi Bow, or the Rust if you have high refinements. In terms of builds, honestly, 4-piece Shimenawa is really her best in slot. It really works well with her kit, but you can also put her on the 2-piece set like 2-piece attack or 2-piece pyro. Either one is fine. She's a very flexible unit in terms of artifacts. And moving through the 4 stars, first one, talking about Bennett. Bennett is basically overall the best character in the game. He's an energy buffer, he's an attack buffer, he's a healer, and it can also be a damage dealer if you really want to make him. He's just overall a really good unit. Noelle, she's not that great of a 4-star really. She's 1 Geo, which is kind of not that great of an element. She doesn't really have that many supportive capabilities other than just an on-field Geo damage user. Her elemental skill gives her a shield, which is not really that strong, and her burst basically turns her attack into like Geo that have long range, but overall not really a good unit to build. Same with Razor, he basically is kind of the same with like Noelle, where he applies electro, but where at the same time his burst allows him to do consistent electro damage as well as physical damage, but at the same time not really that much of an effective unit. So I think overall with the 4 stars, this banner is kind of lackluster in terms of like the only good 4-star this banner has is Bennett. Yeah, that's really all I can say. The 4 stars are not really that great. And now moving on to the weapon banner. Honestly, I think when considering the banner, if you really want to pull the 5-star catalyst for Nahida, I think this is gonna be the best weapon banner in terms of that, because if you lose 50-50, then you do get a pretty good 5-star bow in terms of the Thundering Pulse, which is Yoimiya's best in slot. So I think this is a good banner in terms of rolling for Nahida's 5-star, but in terms of like overall as a weapon banner, I think this banner is sort of decent but not really the best. Honestly, I think you only roll this banner if you really want the catalyst for Nahida. If you're rolling for Yoimiya, I don't think this is the best banner for that case, because if you lose 50-50, then you get the catalyst, and that catalyst is not really useful on anyone else besides Nahida, so I don't really recommend pulling for that. I'm not going to talk about the 4 stars because I honestly don't think the 4 stars even matter talking about if you're rolling on a weapon banner. But overall, don't roll on the weapon banner. Weapon banner is a scam. I will always say this, but in terms of those situations, I think this weapon banner is sort of decent, I would say, but not really the best. And those are my thoughts on the new 3.2 banners. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of these banners. Personally, I think these banners are kind of lackluster, but I think the one thing keeping the banners together is that Nahida is potentially going to be a really good Dendro character, considering that she is the Dendro Archon. So I'm very excited for her. So check me out on Twitch, the link will be in the description below. I will be rolling and testing Nahida on the day of the patch. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like, subscribe for more content in the future. That's it for today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.